Who says you can't find a decent movie for $2? I actually don't think I've ever heard anyone say that, but it sounds like something somebody would say, doesn't it? Regardless, $2 for a movie, it's like it's free. If free to you means costing $2. Alright, this has already gone wildly off the rails. So I found this Blu-ray copy of Small Town Crimes in the discount bin at the local drugstore. Local drugstore, like I live in some sort of small town myself. Hello! I wish. I found it in the bin along with a bunch of others. I honestly had never even heard of this movie before, and that's probably because when it came out, I really wasn't paying attention to smaller movie releases, and that really is a shame. Small Town Crime came out in 2017, and it stars John Hawkes, Anthony Anderson, Octavia Spencer, Robert Forster, and what I would call a cameo from Clifton Collins Jr. as a very colorful pimp. Is there really any other kind of pimp? The basic premise is John Hawkes plays Mike Kendall, a former police officer who was let go after a very violent incident resulted in the death of his former partner and an innocent bystander. A situation which may or may not could have been avoided had Mike not been drunk. Flash forward to the present, and now Mike is basically just trying to drink himself to death and avoid finding a job. Saying that he's trying to drink himself to death might actually be a bit of a leap, because he goes out of his way to keep the unemployment train going by bombing job interviews. Even when he gets close to getting hired, he will then explain to his potential employer about his drinking habits and why he may not be the most stand-up employee. Those scenes were pretty entertaining and John Hawkes nailed it. Anyway, one morning he wakes up in this field outside of his car after a night of considerable drinking, and he stumbles upon this girl who's like bloody and battered and laying in the ditch. He quickly picks her up and rushes her to the hospital, but unfortunately she passes away in the night. And it's that interaction that sort of wakes up this dormant detective inside him, and he makes it his duty to get to the bottom of how the girl ended up on the side of the road. I'll start with what I really liked about this movie. It's pretty evident early on that this movie is taking inspiration from the Coen brothers' crime films, as it absolutely reminded me of Fargo. It's just not quite at that level of quality. It's got the tone, the violence, the cast of supporting characters with just enough backstory and quirks to keep you interested, and subtle moments of humor that work really well in the world that these directors have created. Yes, directors plural, because this movie was directed by a brother team, not unlike the Coens. Interesting. And John Hawkes' performance as Mike was great. He played a burnt-out alcoholic with a heart of gold really well. He's got a certain charm about him that, while you might not be able to relate to his character, you are going to find the performance entertaining. And his determination to get to the bottom of what's going on is believable without undoing all of the character moments that are established early on. And as per usual, Robert Forster gives a great performance as the no-nonsense grandfather of the deceased girl who insists on helping Mike in any capacity that he can. And there is a shootout in this movie that is expertly edited. Everything from the way the camera captures the action to the sound design and sound editing makes it feel extremely real, which again just solidify it in the camp of Coen Brothers light. Yes. Some things that were just sort of meh for me were the supporting characters. Octavia Spencer plays Mike's sister, and Anthony Anderson plays her husband and also a very close friend of Mike's. Now, Octavia Spencer and Anthony Anderson are both great actors, and they did fine here, but that's all it really was. Fine. Underutilized, maybe? Although I guess at the end of the day, an underutilized great actor is still better than an underutilized crap actor. Still, I would have liked to have seen them do more. I just don't know what that more could have been. As his sister, Octavia Spencer's only real purpose here is to sort of lay a bunch of guilt on Mike about not finding a job and, getting his life back on track, and then to ultimately end up in peril and become a motivational factor for Mike when the mystery gets unraveled. And that would be another thing that's just sort of meh, is that the story, or the bigger mystery, is very by the books. You can see it coming a mile away. And that's the real thing that kept this movie from being able to push through that ceiling of mediocrity and get up to stuff like Fargo or No Country for Old Men. All that being said, if you enjoyed those movies, or even stuff like A Simple Plan or Galveston, then you're probably going to like Small Town Crime. So what about you guys? Have you had a chance to see Small Town Crimes? I understand it's an older movie now, retro even. 2017 is retro, if retro just means old. My whole point is 2017 was a very long time ago. If you have seen the movie, let me know what you thought about it in the comments below, and I will see you all in the next one. The basic premise is this. Mike Hawks plays Mike...